Hello, Namaskar, and welcome to the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. The downfall of Arvind Kejriwal. Today, when we think of the man, we think of Arvind Kejriwal, the Chief Minister of Delhi, out on interim bail. We think of him in these terms: downfall, political oblivion, a person who is literally standing on his last political legs. What has happened in this entire case? How come the downfall has been so quick and so accelerated? Because it was not very far back. That was in 2012 actually, when Arvind Kejriwal arrived on the political scene, almost with a bang, with his shock and awe tactics. If you remember, there were these dharnas which he used to do in Delhi, sleep on the streets, agitating this movement, his movement, India Against Corruption, of course, led by Anna Hazare. All those shock and awe tactics which had never been before seen in India, tactics which promised so much to people, and then this huge gap between promise and delivery when he failed to meet his promises. How come the fall has been so quick, so accelerated, so expeditious? What has been the single biggest reason or reasons for this downfall? Today I'm going to take up all those issues in this particular podcast, but a statutory warning: I'm not going to indulge in gossip. I have no desire to talk of all the allegations, the gossip surrounding the man and all the people who surrounding. I will leave that to the other podcast, but rather I would take an incisive, a detailed, and I would say an intellectual look at to what are the four or five main reasons which have led to Arvind Kejriwal's downfall, to the brand called Kejriwal going into oblivion, and what drove him to that. I will also analyze that particular aspect. But before I do that, know this, that his journey actually began in 2006, actually, when he won the Magsaysay Award. He used to then head a movement called the Parivartan movement, which was aimed at ending corruption in government departments amongst the bureaucrats, which caught the popular imagination at that point in time. Though there are critics today who would say that the Magsaysay Award is actually given to people of a certain disposition, left liberal people, and many of them actually, not all of them, but many of them actually end up in some capacity or other being part of intelligence networks of some Western countries, but that's a story for another day. But anyway, he came into prominence then, and then in 2012, when he burst on the scene, as I said, with shock and awe, political tactics never before seen in India. The journey has been, his rise has been spectacular, and so I think has been his fall, which has been coming for quite some time now, but now it is already there at the doorstep, and probably some kind of political miracle can only pull him out from where he has landed at the present moment. And when he arrived on the scene, he did something at that time which was very difficult, but it was spectacular. He captured two constituencies immediately, especially in Delhi. These constituencies were, the first one was a middle class constituency, people like people composed of lawyers, journalists, people doing jobs in the private sector, in the government, people having shops, traders, everyone in the middle class constituency. They were rooting for the man, because at the end of the day, everybody wanted a corruption-free environment. They wanted an environment in which you could go to the police station, file a report without having to pay a bribe. You could go to the DDA or to the income tax department or any other government department, not pay bribes, get your work done quickly, efficiently. Everybody wanted that. You wanted helpline numbers where people would come and redress your grievances. He promised all that. And then, of course, he immediately captured the other constituency. That was the people who were living on the margins, who needed some relief, some succor. He gave them free water, electricity, as we all know. Then the concept of mohalla clinics and government schools which are upgraded. All that was great to start for in the beginning. But later, as we found out, that all this was a big chimera, all this was a big facade, because the mohalla clinics, especially in COVID, as we found out, never worked. They never gave any help to people. Government doctors never turned up in these mohalla clinics. There were no medicines in the mohalla clinics, and then there are these investigations going on whether the medicines were siphoned off. The schools also were upgraded at that point in time. Teachers who got good salaries, but that's it. Nothing beyond that. People still had to go to the big hospitals in Delhi, which are funded by the central government. So what really changed? Nothing much really changed on the ground, as it turned out to be. So a lot of those schemes, a lot of those ideas, today we have found out that what are the problems in those ideas, what are the fallacies in those ideas. But certainly at that point in time, it created a huge impact. And therefore, the question we have to ask ourselves is that how did this downfall start? If he was off to a winning start, he was off to a great start actually. Where did he go wrong? What was that point? What was an inflection point where he started going wrong? And I have news for you, all of you, that I think he started going wrong literally from the first day he took office, he assumed power, he took the reins of power, he started going wrong from that very day, and I'll tell you how. See, we all rooted for the man, and I'll give you a personal story of mine, a personal example that how inspired all of us were at that point in time when when this India against corruption movement was going on. I remember at that time I was in London, I was coming back, I had bought a golf set, and I arrived in the airport and Delhi airport, and you can actually from international you can go through the green channel, you can just pass away unless somebody frisks you or checks you, but mostly people just go away. And I could have just passed through the green channel without paying my duties or whatever on the golf set, but I was so inspired by the moment, I said no, I will go to the customs, I will declare the golf set and I will pay the duty, which I did. The customs people were very surprised there is this person, and I told them, I said I'm so inspired by this movement and I will pay my due taxes which have to be given to the government. I paid and I went away. And so all of us were inspired at that point in time. But what he did, the day he assumed power, and a little bit after that rather, he started ferreting out, he started plucking out, he started discarding the very same middle class people of morality and a certain kind of ethics who had supported him, who had backed him in his fight against corruption. Now today, if you ask me that do I support people like Ashutosh, Shanti Bhushan, Yogendra Yadav, I don't. I don't like their politics, I don't like their ideology, I don't like the way they go things. But having said that, I can still assume or say that in personal capacities, they are still honest people. And I can't for the life of me think of them as supporting corruption. But these are the same people he targeted, he plucked out and made sure they exited the party. And what did he do? He started surrounding himself with goons, with people of shady disposition, with people of dubious backgrounds. The Sanjay Singhs of the world came in, the Swati Mahewals came in. I'm not saying that these are people who have dubious background or something, but there's a lot which has been said about Sanjay Singh, especially about his background. But these kind of street people, people who are more, street fighters and those kind of people started coming in. It slowly, the character of the party started changing. And the worst part was, and that for me was a big clincher, that see, he had been elected as the chief minister of Delhi. But I think immediately, almost literally from that point of onwards, he got it into his head that he had been elected as a prime minister in waiting of India. And it was so apparent to all of us when he used to see what he was doing, he was saying, he started behaving as if he was the future chosen one Prime Minister of India. And I'll tell you why I say that. He was among the first ever people who, as the Chief Minister of a state, that is Delhi state, he started appearing on television in these televised addresses. He would sit with the national flag next to him with the portraits of Bhagat Singh, Dr. Ambedkar at the back, and address the nation, as it were, as if he was a prime minister. He started that trend of chief ministers who started doing that, which I thought was completely over the top. He started doing that because from that particular day onwards, he was behaving more as if he was elected to do politics in the country rather than govern the state of Delhi. He had been given a mandate to govern Delhi, which he left it to his underlings, to all the new kind of, as I said, the people he had surrounded himself, people of slightly dubious backgrounds. He had surrounded himself with those people. He left the governance to people like Sisodia. And now, as it is coming out in Liquorgate, we all know what Sisodia was up to. He embarked on travels, he embarked on politicking in all states in the country, because, as I said, in his mind, he was fixated with the idea that he was the next prime minister of the country. That was his. That was where he had to reach to, and he ignored the simple mandate that he had been chosen basically to govern Delhi and nothing more than that. But it completely went to his head. He completely, as we say, his ambition got the better of him. So that was the single biggest factor which I started, laid the seeds of his downfall. And number two, the parties, the composition of the party, the character of the party started changing with people like Sanjay Singh and these kind of elements who started coming in. These are all people, we use this term in from the Second World War with these kind of blitzkrieg, these kind of stormtroopers. These were the stormtroopers of the party, very aggressive people who would start shouting, who would fling all kind of allegations. These were the kind of new people who had come into the party. So the character of the party instantly changed as soon as the reins of power were taken over by the Aam Aadmi Party and especially by Arvind Kejriwal. The third point is that he took on Narendra Modi, which was, I think, the biggest mistake of his political career. Whatever Arvind Kejriwal was or whatever he promised, he's not a patch on Narendra Modi. And it's not that I'm some BJP supporter or anything, nothing of that. I'm a centrist. My political views are my political views. But objectively, Modi is a incorruptible entity. And also, please remember the fact, if he was comparing himself with Modi, then Modi is the man literally with no family. Of course, he has a brother even today, but there are no reports he ever meets him or there is anything he does anything for him. But Kejriwal has a family, and especially after the Sheesh Mahal controversy and what all he has done out there, and we can all see what he does for his own family, how the nest is feathered, as they say. So you compare yourself with a man like Modi, who's incorruptible, who does not tolerate corruption, and you pit yourself against him. And not only you pit yourself against him, but at every forum. I still remember this live telecast I was saying, where there was a conference of chief ministers of states and the prime minister was in the middle, and there were these same. And Arvind Kejriwal, the kind of disrespect he would say, he would put his hands behind and he would yawning. The prime minister is speaking. This is the kind of disrespect. This is the kind of body language he would display. At every step of the way, he disrespected the prime minister. He picked on Narendra Modi, and he picked on a person who eventually is now really giving back to him. The third or the fourth big point which I am going to make is that, to my mind, he literally played a huge role in destroying Punjab. I have to say this. He was confabulating with all these Khalistani elements. He was encouraging these elements. Now there are these reports, investigations going on with the NIA, so many of these things which are going on at the present moment, and the truth will come out. But the fact is, his entire support for the farmers' agitation, his entire support to almost cleave Punjab away from the rest of the country. Punjab, you can see, goes in a different direction from the rest of the country. Arvind Kejriwal has played a huge role in that. His usage of Bhagwant Mann, the chief minister, as literally a driver or as somebody whose plane he takes and he does his politics all over the country, he has played a huge role in inciting the farmers in that state against the government in Delhi. And this, to my mind, has been a really big reason which has eventually now led to his downfall. And the last important point which I want to make is about the Swati Mahiwal case. It's not so much about what has happened to the lady, but the fact is his treatment of women in general. When he burst on the scene, as I said, with promises, with literally the moon, he was giving you the moon, but also the promise that men and women will be treated equally in a new age way. He promised all that, and look at the way he has treated Swati. All said and done, I don't want to get into the gossip part of it. That is not the concern of this podcast. But the fact is, you treat a confidant, a close aide of yours in the manner. You not only acknowledge what your people have done to her, the kind of beating she received. This shows your what kind of attitude you have towards women. And he has revealed himself that he is certainly not a new age politician, but he is what we call, in Hindi there's a word called takyanusi, a man of the old ways, those old kind of the men of before who used to treat women in a beastly manner. He tolerates that. He probably encourages that, and that is why his party has gone after Swati. And whether she's a BJP agent or not, that is not the point. The point is, can you treat women in this particular way? That's a central question he has to answer, and there are no answers for that. So these are the 4 or 5 big reasons I feel that Arvind Kejriwal completely lost the plot. These have led to his downfall. And what drove him to that? I think that we need to spend maybe a little bit of time and understand that also. It is the age-old problem which kings and monarchs and anybody who's coming up on the ladder faces, and that is the problem of ambition. Ambition, ambition, and ambition. That is what has led to his downfall. It is the Shakespearean problem which Shakespeare outlined so brilliantly in the play Macbeth. Ambition, this ambition that he is the chosen one, that he is a man who is deemed to be the prime minister, he is the next prime minister of India. This is what led to his hubris, to his downfall, the single biggest reason. And number 2, it is also the way your ideology is. He practically has no ideology in terms of just the grab power is really his ideology, but still at the end of the day, he's still from that old socialist mold of people, and these people in private, they all want to accumulate wealth, they all want to lead the good life, but they will keep talking socialistic nonsense outside, start giving freebies and destroying the economies. That is another big reason. And lastly, and this point which I think defines Arvind Kejriwal also, I don't think anybody has made this comparison, but I'm going to do it. To my mind, he has much more in common with that other stormtrooper politician of yesteryears, Sanjay Gandhi. He's actually another Sanjay Gandhi. He practices the same kind of stormtrooper politics, the politics of aggression, the politics of defaming people, the politics of getting your own way, my way, or the highway concept. He is Sanjay Gandhi, and that is why, to my mind, there is a commonality which today has emerged between Arvind Kejriwal and Rahul Gandhi. So this is what has driven him to make these 4 or 5 massive blunders which have destroyed his credibility, which have destroyed any kind of potential which he had held at one point in time. Maybe he actually did start on the right note, maybe he had some great ideas, but all of them have gone downhill because of this overweening ambition which has completely taken hold of him, and it still hasn't left him, by the way. He still doesn't accept that the writing is on the wall, that his political career is almost gone. And if tomorrow he lands up in jail or spends a huge amount of time in jail, I wouldn't be very surprised. This is the fate of such people who, as I say, with people with overvaulting ambition, people who want to literally leapfrog and do things beyond their capability or beyond their potential. This is the classic case of such people. Arvind Kejriwal is one of those people. And today, if he's facing the music, then a lot of people would say perhaps he deserves it. And so on this note, I come to the end of this particular episode of the CAA show. Do subscribe to the CAA show, and you just have to click on the red button. Subscription is, of course, absolutely free. And I promise you, we will keep bringing you episode after episode with completely new ideas and a new interpretation of the hot button issues of the day. Goodbye and cheers from my end.